Let's talk about some pretenders, contenders, and let's make some predictions for the playoffs. Alright guys, it's this year's edition of Pretenders versus Contenders. We all know the formula by now. I break down each team, talk about whether they're a pretender, they're a contender, and at the end, I'm going to say what the playoff seedings are. Let's jump right into the AFC East. And in the East, Buffalo, they're contenders. They are 5-2 right now. Their defense is what's going to lead them to the playoffs. That offense has got to keep getting better, but the defense is going to be just enough for them to do it. Miami and the Jets, well, they're contenders for top 5 picks, not for the playoffs. Yeah, these are two of the worst teams in the league right now. Hopefully they can improve within the next few years, but for this year, not going to happen. And the Patriots, come on, they're always a contender. This team might not lose a game this year. That's how good they have looked so far. They got some tests coming up, but I really like their chances to get back to the Super Bowl and really win the Super Bowl. Let's move on to the AFC North. Now, Baltimore's a contender. Lamar Jackson's just leading this offense right now. He's the machine that keeps them going. He's just having a great season so far. Cincinnati, they're 0-8, and they just benched Andy Dalton. That just tells you everything. They're pretenders. And Cleveland and Pittsburgh, those two are question marks right now. I'm not ready to call them pretenders just yet because Baltimore does have a tough 6 games coming up, so they could get back into the AFC North picture, but you can't really say they're contenders because they have not looked like a good team so far. The AFC South, Houston and Indianapolis are contenders. Both of these teams are going to be fighting for that division. However, Jacksonville and Tennessee, they're still in the playoff picture. Those two teams could potentially get a wildcard spot if things go their way. So it's the same thing with Cleveland and Pittsburgh. Let's move on to the AFC West. Denver and Oakland, those two are pretenders right now. Oakland has improved from year 1 to year 2 in the Gruden era. However, I just don't think it's enough to where they can get a playoff spot. I think they're going to be contenders next year if they keep improving, but right now I'm not ready to call it. And Denver, they've only won 2 games all year, and Flacco's going to be out with a neck injury, and they're going to be starting quarterbacks that really have never started before. Now the Chargers, right now I'm going to put them as pretenders, but we all know they get off to slow starts and then they heat up towards the end of the year. However, had they started off too slow, had they gotten off to too slow of a start to where they can't get back to it, right now they're pretenders because of how they looked, but I would not be surprised that they're in the thick of it come the end. I also wouldn't be surprised that they're not in the thick of it. And come on, KC's the favorite to win the AFC West, so they are contenders. The question is, where are they going to be come the playoffs? I'll let you know later. Right now, let's move on to the NFC. In the NFC East, Dallas and Philadelphia, they're going to be fighting for that division. We know it's going to come down right to the end with those two teams, so they are contenders for that division crown. While the Giants and the Redskins, wait till next year. The Giants are starting a rookie quarterback in Daniel Jones. He's going to go through some growing pains. However, they keep improving. Maybe they can get back into the playoff conversation next year. As for Washington, they've won 1 game, and that was against the Dolphins. That's all I got to say. Time to move on to the NFC North. Chicago, I'm going to put as a pretender. Last year, Chicago, they really came together as a team, but this year, it just hasn't happened. Trubisky has regressed. The defense is not as good as it was last year. And they just made a lot of questionable decisions. They really have. Don't know what more to say on Chicago. Detroit, like a few other teams, they're a question mark for me. At times they've looked like a playoff team. At times they haven't. Technically they're still in it, but the NFC is really talented, and they would really have to go on a winning streak in order to realistically get into the playoffs. Can this team do that? I don't know, but at times they have looked like they can do it. Meanwhile, Green Bay and Minnesota are 2 of the most complete teams in the NFC right now. These teams are just playing out of their minds right now. Green Bay looks greatly improved on defense. Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers. And Minnesota, Kirk Cousins just looks better from year 1 to year 2. He's really putting it together. The receiving core is really good. The defense is really good. And Dalvin Cook is leading the league in rushing. So these two teams, they're definitely in it. In the NFC South, the Falcons have been one of the most disappointing teams in the NFL. They've only won 1 game all year, and Dan Quinn may be out of a job before the season is over. Really disappointing for a team with such high expectations. Carolina, I'm going to say they're contenders. Kyle Allen really has done a great job filling in for Cam Newton. Now the question is Newton going to get his job back, or is Allen going to stay the starter? We'll find out in the next few weeks, but right now, Carolina looks like a contender. Tampa Bay may be looking for a quarterback come the NFL draft. I can't put them as contenders at all. I can't even put them as a question mark. They're just pretenders. They got to get that quarterback situation filled out. They really do. In New Orleans, they are one of the most complete teams in the NFL right now. Even when Breeze went down, the defense stepped up, Bridgewater stepped up, really the entire team stepped up to fill that void, and they won all 5 games. Now that Breeze is back, they are a dangerous team, and they really look like a Super Bowl contender. In the NFC West, the only team that I cannot put as a contender right now are the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray has really shown that he can be the franchise to Arizona, but they got to keep building around him. That team is not yet ready to fight for the playoffs just yet, but they're getting there. They are getting there. Meanwhile, the Rams, 49ers, and Seahawks are all contenders. The Rams, they struggled a little bit with a 3-game losing streak, but they're back to where they were when they started the season. They got to keep improving. They got to keep winning if they want to get a wild card spot. 49ers, that defense just looks amazing. Like I said, that may be the best front 7 in the NFL. That's an amazing defense. I love how they're doing it. It's amazing. It really is. And the Seahawks, yeah, they've had some moments where they haven't been so good, but they're a really good team, and I like their chances to get into the playoffs. Alright, let's talk about these playoff seedings, starting with the AFC. Now, come on. The Patriots are going to get the number 1 seed. We all know this already, so let's just get that out of the way. Buffalo, I say, gets the number 5 seed. I think their defense is going to do just enough so that they can get that 5th seed. The real question is who gets the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th seed? And who gets that wildcard spot? Well, I say KC, even without Mahomes for a few games, wins enough games so they can get the number 2 seed, so they'll get the other first round bye. I think Indianapolis wins the South, and they get the number 3 seed. And Baltimore wins the North, gets the 4th seed. So why do I have it like this? Why is Indianapolis 3rd and Baltimore 4th? It just boils down to Baltimore has a tough 6 games coming up, and I don't know if they're going to win enough to where they can get any higher than the 4th seed. I just don't know if they can do that. Indianapolis seems like they have an easier schedule than Baltimore right now. Now, who gets that 6th seed? Well, even without J.J. Watt, I say Deshaun Watson leads the Texans to that 6th seed. Texans get the final wildcard spot. So this is what I have in the AFC. Patriots number 1, Chiefs number 2, Colts number 3, Ravens 4, Bills 5, and Texans 6. Those are my playoff seedings for the AFC. Let's move on to the NFC. Now, you can make a case for New Orleans, Green Bay, and San Francisco to all get the number 1 seed. I say San Francisco gets that number 1 seed, holds out New Orleans and Green Bay for it. Now I have New Orleans edging out Green Bay for the number 2 seed. The reason I have that is because I think New Orleans is a more complete team right now than Green Bay is at the moment. Both these teams look complete, however, New Orleans just looks even more complete because of what happened when they lost Breeze. So Green Bay gets the 3rd seed. Now, who wins the division between Dallas and Philadelphia? Well, more on that later. Let me talk about who gets the 5th and 6th seed. I got Seattle getting the 5th, Minnesota getting the 6th. And I have it like that because I think at some point there's going to be a game where the quarterbacks are going to have to make a play, and I just trust Russell Wilson more than I trust Kirk Cousins at this point. So Seattle 5th and Minnesota 6th. Now, between Dallas and Philadelphia, who wins the division? Well, Dallas has already beaten Philadelphia, and I'm going to say that they beat them out for that division. So, I have San Francisco with the 1st seed, New Orleans with the 2nd, Green Bay gets 3rd, Dallas has the 4th seed, Seattle 5th, and Minnesota 6th. Alright guys, so those were my pretenders versus contenders and my playoff predictions. And I'll see you guys for College Football Friday.